Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode of Chatter from the Vox. And we're doing it a little bit differently tonight because people would ask for it for ages and ages and ages, and we finally got our hands on another camera and a massive camera extension lead and a light and blah. And we didn't get another green screen just yet, did we?
No.
Because it's just too expensive right now. But we bought a Mikey cam. So it's not Brom cam, it's Mikey cam, because if Mikey P's here, we can get both of you on, and it's still Mikey cam and it works, right?
Yep.
So we do have another chat window that has replaced the chat box window, so you won't see people's text scrolling through the screen, but trust me, there'll be lots of comments on Twitch, because we do this live on Twitch every Sunday and or Monday. And now we have another window that we can change size and expand and retract and all sorts, and we could put one of the Mikeys in there. So you'll know if one of them's here because you'll be able to see them this time. So rather than a dismembered head talking, I can actually talk to you.
Yeah.
And they can see us sort of talking to each other.
Damn straight.
Yeah, which it's weird already because I'm not used to it. Now I can see us both, but it's all over the place. However, this is what it is. So let us know what you think. Let us know if you think it looks any good, because it could be awful and you could go, no, go back to the old way, and we can do that, of course. But I thought it'd be nicer for you guys to see Mikey P and Brom when they're both here, or when one of them's here, having a chat with us on these chat from the Vox as well. The future state intention will be, hopefully, to green screen those two out as well, but that's a lot of stuff and costs, etc., which we don't have right now. So we can't do that right now, but we'll hope to do it in the future.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
possibly.
the plan.
Yeah, and because of the setup in this new studio compared to my old living room, it's actually achievable as well. Like, we have the space to do it, so that's really cool. I know some of you on YouTube won't be able to see this nowadays because you can't see the comments, but the Claw, shut up. He said, "Get rid of the dude on the right." Not very nice, is it? Not very, well, actually, you are on my right.
Oh,
so
you're on my right though.
Maybe he means you. Anything. If you're unfamiliar with these videos, this is the first time you're watching this on Twitch and or YouTube. This is our Chatter from the Vox series that we do run almost every single Monday or Sunday. I can't say every single because we missed one 3 weeks ago because I moved house and studios. So we did miss 1 week, but otherwise we do it every Sunday and or Monday. This is the first one for June, and if you check out the Facebook page and the banner that's on the Facebook page, or you check out the Twitch homepage, you will see our schedule. And we update that every month. It was a little bit late this time, but we got it out before the first one. And you can see what our filming schedule or recording schedule is for Twitch. And you can, if you want to, head on over to Twitch, search for Warhammer Liam, come and find us, follow us, and then you can engage with us live. So for those of you watching this on YouTube, you will not see the comments on the screen, but we do have live comments coming through on Twitch. So whilst we're discussing this topic, people will make comments. We'll try and engage with some of them. Mikey Brom has got his iPad up so he can read the comments, and we do try and answer questions live as well. It's part of the beauty of these podcasts, is we're kind of live answering questions.
Definitely.
Something we started early on with just patrons, and now we'll open it up to Twitch because it just worked really, really well. And if we do run out of stuff to talk about, they help us, basically. They save our bacon, right? Because they give us stuff to talk about.
I can't remember that rule.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
The name of the special chapter tactic, I'm not stalling, and thank you. And that's how
Cheers,
it goes.
Silas.
Yeah. So if you do like these, head on over to Twitch. If you're on YouTube watching and you enjoy it and you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. At this stage, we've just gone over 9,530 something subs.
Yeah, something like that.
I want to get to 10k before 2 years, which is on the 21st of July. Yeah, 21st of July, and I want to get 10k before the 21st of July because I'm just a goal, just a personal goal, really. So please subscribe, because YouTube does tell me that 60% or something like that, 50% of our viewers aren't subscribers.
Damn.
Which will predominantly be for battle reports, because people will just watch the faction that they like. But, help us out. Otherwise, if you are watching on YouTube, you can also feel free to drop your comments below with your opinions as the topic we're going to talk about, and we'll try and get back to you. And if you do enjoy sit and talks, but more importantly you enjoy our battle reports, you can head over to the website that's across the screen, www.deploymentzone.tv, and that is our website. That's mine and Winters' website that we put up battle reports every single Tuesday. We've got DZHQs, which is me and Winters sit and talks, the old more Winters series. We've got top tips. There's painting tutorials coming up this week. We launched the first painting tutorial where Rob, not Steve, teaches you how to paint the end of all things. Winters' Death Guard, which will be cool.
That would be really cool.
We've got big debates. We've got Black Toe Studios in the studio this Sunday, and we're hoping to get a couple of big debates in with them as well. So that should be good fun.
Yep.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. And that random ringing noise that you guys hear on YouTube that you don't know what it is on Twitch, that's a massive thank you to Andy Byrne for subscribing. Whilst Andy Byrne has subscribed, we will also remember that coming up very, very soon, sometime in July, and I always forget the date, Andy Byrne and Mikey P, so a patron of the channel, and Mikey P one of our faces of Moorhammer, are doing a 100-kilometre walk over the course of a weekend, and that's all for Parkinson's UK. We did run a competition, like a raffle, I guess, that people could donate, and that would all go towards Parkinson's UK. And they won a box set. I think it was a new Shadow Spear. We did raise £270 as a channel, which I'm really proud of. However, if you still want to donate to them through the channel, feel free, and it will all go across to their Just Giving page. Otherwise, head on over to their Just Giving page. If Andy chucks it at me before this video goes up, I'll link it in the video description below, and support them directly because it costs me less than... Because basically, if you support through me, I actually end up paying a fee to do it. But it was worth it because we gave them loads of money. And he's just told me it's on the 13th and 14th of July. So we're even doing charity work in the channel. This is such an amazing community. Cool.
It's all community.
That's covered everything apart from Patreon. Last week we did run a 2-day free Patreon trial for people to join Discord, and we gained a load of new Discordites for that. People joining us in Discordia, so that was amazing. So if you like the idea of a 40k community and you like to sit and chat hobby basically 24 hours a day,
it is all the time non-stop. I had the weekend off, didn't look at my phone too much, and came back to an absolute torrent. Days. I haven't caught up yet. There's still chats where I've not been able to scroll through it.
It's amazing. I can't keep up.
No.
I try. I can't keep up. But come and join the community, and there's all sorts of stuff that goes on. There's community organised events, as well as things like Andy Burns' charity thing. He's just told us he's raised £800 so far of a £1,000 target.
Wow.
I would love for us to push him over the edge. Maybe I'm being a bit hopeful, but I would love for us to push him over the edge. So dig deep, people. It's June. Christmas is months away, so you can afford it. Anywho, that's that, right?
Yeah.
Cool. We've got a topic to talk about, because the whole point of these is we pick a random topic and we just chat about it for about an hour. And it's just an hour of hobby rambling. So if you like that kind of stuff, if you like to listen to this while you sat painting, you'll enjoy these, and there's loads of them. And we do also put these on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify, so you can download it as an audio podcast as well and listen along when you're on the way to work or jogging. Do people do that still? Jogging?
No.
Okay, anyway. I like to use bikes downhill.
Yeah. I cycle the 1 mile to work once in a while.
Yeah. Every now and again, maybe.
But chose not to cycle here tonight.
No, it's about 2 miles.
It's about 1.5 miles,
Anywho, so cool. So tonight's topic, what we decided we'd talk about tonight, title of this video, is about faction-specific rules. So we've kind of covered a few different things over the last few weeks about whether we think they're good or bad for 40k. What people consider win at all costs, what people consider cheese, all that kind of stuff. And I thought we'd kind of stay on a similar sort of track, and this is because it's faction specific rules. I think this is very much poignant for our channel as well, because we sort of focus on a lot of narrative stuff, and we like narrative battle reports that tell a story rather than just who can take the most powerful list. And this links in, and the question I basically have is faction specific rules. What I've said is, are they a good thing or a bad thing for 40k? And what I mean by that is, do they encourage or discourage the narrative? So
you online?
Yeah, we're online. I can see your iPad's blank. That's your iPad's fault. But do they encourage or discourage the narrative? And I'll explain what I mean by that. And then we'll discuss it. And then I'm sure Twitch will have some comments as well. But take, for example, Eldar. It's a Craftworld Eldar, and I'm very close to my heart. I've loved Eldar forever. And I've almost always ran Simhan as a mono faction ever since I've had a fully painted Eldar army, because I like Simhan. I like the idea of Wind Riders and Vipers and skimmer tanks and all that kind of stuff. I like that fast striking aesthetic of Craftworld Simhan. However, when you look at the Craftworlds on the whole, do certain Craftworld traits reduce the variety you see on the tabletop? Now I can go into others. We can talk about Marines, with Ultramarines and Raven Guard. You can talk about potentially Chaos Space Marines with Black Legion and maybe is it Night Lords? Is Night Lords the -1?
Yeah.
I think Night Lords is the -1. But basically what I'm saying is, you've got standalone codexes such as Thousand Suns and Death Guard, and they have one specific Legion type trait. And then you have codexes like Eldar and codexes like Space Marines. They have 6, 7, 8 chapter tactics or whatever. And do we see enough variety? For example, do you often at events see flyer wings that aren't a LATOC?
Why would you?
Exactly, and that's the problem, right? And that's the big issue, because if something is that good, you won't see another faction-specific trait.
It's a bit of a shame, really, because actually a colourful board full of different coloured marines other than blue or black would be lovely, and I like blue, but the love it even. But the it is a bit of a shame that you don't see like salamanders floating about, and actually they're not terrible, and none of these traits are actually horrendous in their own little bubble, but actually compared to the other 6 in that codex, they're not the best. So.
And that's the key, right?
Yeah.
And there are people out there, some of them are patrons of ours, who will play a specific legion or a chapter because that's what they've always played and they love that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But on the whole, and I'm not talking about these specific people, because the people that will play, for example, mono word bearers, Sorcerer Dave, are few and far between. People that will play mono Iron Hands as Iron Hands, not the 13th with Iron Hands rules, but mono Iron Hands, are few and far between.
Yeah,
don't see them. Because Ultramarines have, one, a very good trait. Being able to fall out of combat and shoot is a good trait.
It's
even
cracking.
at -1. It's an amazing trait. And they have the Primarch, which is, I mean, that's leagues above the trait. And then Raven Guard have the -1 to hit at range, which is an amazing trait.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go off on a tangent about that -1 to hit in a little while. But those two mean, do you see... I mean, how often do you see Imperial Fists?
I've played one at one tournament.
Have you?
Yeah, my first ever tournament. I played Ian Waller down at Confrontation.
Right.
And he had Imperial Fists.
That's amazing. Ian Waller, you're my hero.
Yeah.
You went to a tournament with Imperial Fists.
Yeah, he beat me. But then that was my first tournament.
But maybe that proves that my fact or my point is wrong. Maybe my point is wrong. Maybe there is still plenty of variety.
I think he's just a massive fan of them because when Mikey P and I went to the doubles tournament, he was there with another friend and he played his Imperial Fists. So I think that's his army. He loves that army. That's the army he's always had. And at the time, it wasn't a Primaris-led army, typically. So it looked like he'd been doing it since 8th, pushing forward. But he had elements that were old scouts, old marines, sort of tacked in there as well.
Yeah.
So maybe he's been playing that for years. He's part of the Haven Wargaming Club, so it's not like he's
can open.
It's not like it's his only. He's just joined because they're amazing and that's what he wants to play and he likes yellow and or something like that. It looks like that's his army. Like that's his. But actually their trait isn't great. Ignores cover. Yeah, that's good.
It's not.
It's all right.
It's average.
I put all my models in cover and I went, why the hell did I do that?
Yeah, waste of time. Right?
But yeah.
But cover's another thing. This is where you will learn, if you're watching this for the first time, we disappear on massive tangents all the time. Cover's another thing. The current cover mechanic is crap.
Yep.
Isn't it?
It's not amazing.
+1 to armor saves in an edition that is literally littered with -1, -2 AP everywhere.
Yeah.
That is the terrible trait.
Yeah.
I don't know.
False really.
I don't know how I would fix cover. I'll go off and say that categorically. Winters has a great idea, which I think, if I remember rightly, and he watches these, so he will shout at me if I get it wrong. But Winters has this idea whereby a cover save gives you a save. So, like old 7th edition kind of.
Yeah.
Unmodifiable save. So maybe it's a 5+, for example. So it works kind of like an invulnerable save, I guess. So if you don't have an invulnerable save but you're in cover, you have a 3+ armor save, like a Space Marine, and you're in cover, which gives you a 5+. Okay. So
it's like
say for example you get hit by a last cannon.
Yeah.
A Marine would then have a 6+ save.
Yeah.
But you have 5+ because you're in cover.
Okay.
That was his idea.
Yeah.
I think that offers more to many more armies than the current system. Orcs in cover currently get to a 5+ save because they get +1 to their current t-shirts that they're wearing.
Yeah.
Which means if they get hit with a last cannon or anything AP -2, they still get 0 saves whatsoever.
Yeah.
At all. So I think having that 5+ save as standard, so basically you're essentially given a 5+ invulnerable save. You can even call it any model in cover gets a 5+ invulnerable save. And I think it's a better mechanic.
What do you think of -1 to hit?
No, I hate it.
With the I suppose
with the current iteration of the rules,
a lot of things would explode.
with the current iterations of the rules, -1 to hit for cover is terrible. If the current iterations of the rules are different, -1 to hit for cover, I could get on board. It's harder to hit the target that is weaving and dodging through cover. I get on board with it narratively. Narratively, it makes sense to me. However, I because of the current way cover works, so I would like to introduce a rule personally that you can never get better than -1 to hit.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you introduce that as a rule in general, and this is where we really do tangent, because the -1 to hit stuff, that's why a Laytok is so popular.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why some of the other stratagems and codex choices are so popular, because you can stack them and you can end up with better than -1. So Raven Guard get -1 at range. I'm sure there's probably ways they can stack that.
It makes you pretty much invisible, doesn't it? If you started stacking -1s to hit.
Then when you look at Eldar, who can, and we've ranted about this before, so we won't go into massive detail. But when you look at an Eldar, a Laytok flyer, that's -1 for being a flyer, -1 for being a Laytok, so -2, and then you can put lightning fast reactions on him for -3 to hit. Yeah. That's stupid. If you change the ruling so that it was natural -1 to hit for a flyer, a Laytok was -1 to hit, and you could get that on everything in the army still, because that's one of the things I don't like between Eldar and Space Marines. This is something we'll go on to in a minute. A balance issue to do with faction-specific rules. But if you said you can get -1 for being a flyer, you can get -1 for being an Laytok, you can have -1 for lightning fast reactions, but you can never get better than -1 at all.
Yeah.
So if you're an Eldar flyer, it doesn't matter that you're a Laytok, so suddenly the flyers aren't getting the bonus. That kind of ties in the Space Marines, because Storm Ravens don't get the bonus, and Storm Talons don't get the bonus anyway. So that kind of matches that straight away. You get the -1 for being a flyer, but not for being a Laytok. And then lightning fast reactions, well, if you're more than 12 inches away and you put 2 CPs on lightning fast reactions on a flyer, it doesn't make any difference, because he's always -1 to hit.
Yeah.
The only time that becomes different is if your opponent has then got a rule that gives them +1 to hit, because you can still then make it a -1 to hit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of. How that would interact exactly, I don't know. But when you're within 12 inches, you lose the -1 for being a Laytok. You could then lightning fast react something like a Wave Serpent or a squad of jet bikes or something, or even a squad of Guardians, and then they become the -1.
Yep.
So you still have -1, and you can still could comfortably get -1 almost everywhere, but you can't abuse it by stacking -2s, -3s all over the place.
I get that. I get that. I don't necessarily. I would allow flyer detachments. I know that's one of the points that's broken. But
I'm not stopping flyer detachments.
No, but I mean the flying battlefield roll from having a -1 in addition, because they get supersonic type thing.
Yeah, so supersonic is, or airborne or supersonic, whatever, is the one that gives them -1 anyway.
Yeah, so then -1 in addition wouldn't be terrible. -2 to hit isn't broken. The in my view,
Guard, Orcs, and Tau would disagree with you. But go on. It's easy to say.
Yeah.
I'm not digging. Digging, but it's easy to say -2 isn't that terrible when you're used to playing Marines.
Yeah.
With 3+ to hit across the board.
Yeah.
But when you're an Orc player, a Tau player, a Guard player,
you're hitting them.
-2 to hit is disgusting, isn't it? Even demon engines for things like Chaos Space Marines, because all the demon forge stuff like Forge Fiends, without any buffs, they're all 4+ to hit. So -2 makes them 6s to hit. They're expensive models that hit on 6s.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah, maybe my little privileged world of Marines is,
you're going to
swaying me.
You're going to learn soon, right? But,
I will have to learn at some point. But okay, no, I get that. So if you're not, so do you just think a Laytok and those -1s is bad?
I would just seriously, I do think it's bad.
Yeah.
Because I do think if you were to remove that rule by basically saying -1 to hit is the maximum you can get, including faction-specific rules, then I think that you remove the risk of people not being forced. Being forced is the wrong words, but being heavily encouraged to specifically stick to, for example, a Laytok flyers.
So I guess the benefit then, because obviously there has to be a benefit for going for that from a rules point of view. The benefit is that you don't have to pay any CP for your -1 when they're outside of 12 inches. Is it?
Well,
that's your benefit for taking that.
Your army still has a massed -1 to hit across the whole army. It's still an exceptionally strong trait. Yeah. But you might see, for example, you'd probably see a lot more Ulthway flyer detachments, because they get the -1 for being flyer anyway, and a Laytok can't beat that, but they then get a 6+ for no paying for free for being a Laytok, for being Ulthway.
You definitely see more of that.
Yeah. And still -1 to hit, people have said it in the comments already, is still incredibly strong for armies against certain armies. So Guard, okay? The Guard rely heavily on firepower. They don't really have a combat phase. They've got a couple of units. They've got Ogryns and Bulgrins who are okay in melee. Yep. They're not broken good. Bulgrins are tough. They don't really hurt a lot when they fight.
They just don't die.
They've nerfed that a little bit as well, so they're not horrendous. Yeah. But otherwise, if you look at the guard codex, I mean, what's your best infantry melee choice? Catch and guardsmen, really, or veterans. I think might have 2 attacks. They're still strength 4 as a catching. You can add loads of combinations in with the colonel and other stuff and end up with 4 or 5 attacks per guardsman. But you're still only hitting strength 4 AP nothing. It's not game breaking, right? It's multiple dice and weight dice win in this edition, but it's not broken good. So guard rely on shooting, but their shooting as standard is 4+ across the board. Okay, so basilisks are 4+, wyverns are 4+, manticores are 4+, Leman Russes that aren't tank commanders are 4+. All those bar the Russes, if they move, are -1 to hit because they're a heavy weapon. You ain't got a -1 on your Latok Flyer or a Latok Wave Serpent or a Latok Jet Bikes. It's another -1 anyway. So you've already got a -2 there. So what I'm saying is, although I'm saying it, your army can never get themselves to better than -1. You can still suffer worse than -1. So your -1 is an Latok. I move my heavy weapon. I'm still -2, but because I've moved. Does that make sense?
Complicated.
It's not.
No,
it's not. You can never force your opponent to be worse than -1, but your opponent can be worse than -1 by doing things like moving heavy weapons or advancing.
Okay.
Which means the worst you'll ever get to is -2, but that has to have 2 different interactions to happen to get to that point where you're -2. Because -1 even for guards, say take basilisks, right? So a basilisk, it's a 108 point tank, 103, no, wyvern's 100. It's a 110 point tank, we'll call it. Okay, you roll 2d6, pick the highest for your number of shots.
Yeah.
So you're averaging around 4 to 5 shots. You're then suddenly hitting on 5s. You're going to hit 2, maybe 3 times. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not amazing the second you've got just -1 on there. You have taken a few wounds off it and reduced it to its middle profile, or it's had to move because something's got too close to melee. -2 to hit straight away. That becomes horrible. You hit on 6s. You're going to hit once. Max.
Yeah.
So you play a Latok Flyers or a Latok Eldar with lightning fast reactions, and I've lost 1 bracket or I've moved. I now can't hit you at all. So there's another fix that you could introduce, which I'm less of a fan of because they've done it for an army and it's proven to be very, very good. But then you'd have to change that rule because that army's got that benefit. And the other rule you could bring in, they brought in a rule that says 6s always wound. So if your strength 3 weapon hits a toughness 8 knight, 6s always wound. Okay, everything can wound everything. I don't understand why 6s don't always hit.
Yeah, okay.
Because a lucky shot, you'd hit with a 6, okay? Now, because they brought out Daka with Orcs, which essentially is that, 6s always hit and generate 2 additional rolls to hit or something like that, or whatever it is, Daka, they've already got that rule in. So if you bring out my 6s always hit rule, then you'd have to change Daka to make it better.
100%.
A little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure that and even if you move that to 5s, you're then giving them so much weight of dice, and actually it's not that bad.
My fix for Daka would be that instead of a 6 to hit auto hits and generates an additional roll to hit, would just be a 6 to hit causes 2 hits. And suddenly then you have that added bonus, although you still hit on 6s, you have that added bonus that you cause 2 automatically, or maybe 3 automatically, perhaps. Because that makes sense for Orcs, but it's a possible another counter to minus to hit stuff. Because Orcs were suffering heavily against things like a Latok because they hit on 5s and it was very easy for Latok to stack -2 stuff they couldn't hit. So GW went, we need to fix that, so we're going to give you a 6s always hit with Daka. That's fine. Didn't help Tau, didn't help Guard, didn't help any other army that hits on 4s.
No.
Most don't. Most hit on the 3-ish mark. Okay, but when you've got Guard, and I'm not saying Guard need buffs or bonuses, because Guard are very powerful. Okay?
The weight of fire that you can get
they can take so much stuff. But you can see what I mean about how if they start to balance Guard out currently, because Guard are doing very well, I think. I say that. I have no idea if they're placing high in tournaments. I just know that whenever I hear Guard being involved in a big battle report that's semi-competitive, shall we say, they tend to perform okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Guard aren't, they're definitely not the top of the top at the moment, but they're a strong choice codex wise. If they said Guard are still very strong because the Law 32 still happens, etc., we're going to balance them out a bit. They would then be affected more significantly by this minus to hit stuff.
Yeah, but
I think this has been said on Discord a lot. It's been said a lot by a lot of people that play a lot of games. I think Andy Burns said it. I think Sorcerer Dave said it. Winters has said it a little bit, I believe, in the past. I think Mikey P's brought it up. Anything in 40k that stops you from interacting in the game,
I think is negative.
Yeah, 100%.
I
can't remember what the terminology was that Mikey Herbert used, but that for the whole building thing, that's the same principle.
Yeah. Anything that makes something uninteractive and stops the other player's interaction with the game is a negative for 40k.
100%.
Because what happens then is 2 players turn up to play and 1 can't play. And they can't play because of rules that exist where they're stopping someone else from playing. And that, I think, is silly. Now, negative to hit modifiers stacking with things like a Laytok. And it's not just a Laytok. I'm not just digging at people that play a Laytok Eldar. But things that allow you to stack negative to hit modifiers can stop the other player from interacting in the game.
Definitely.
And therefore, I think it's negative. So if you were to change the rules, that would mean that, barring rare circumstance, the opponent can always interact at least on 6s perhaps. So either you don't stack worse than -1 or 6s always hit or something akin to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's better, right? It's got to be.
100%.
Let me know what you think. Drop comments in YouTube below and in the YouTube comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm blowing out of proportion. I don't play a Laytok. I don't play Styges. I don't play Rave. I don't play any of that stuff on purpose because I really dislike that -1 to hit. I like using things like lightning fast reactions for my Eldar. So every now and again I get an additional -1. And if I'm really cheesing it against Winters because I want to beat him, I will stick that on a flyer just for a laugh. But if they took it off me, if they took off the ability for me to do -2, I wouldn't care.
No,
I wouldn't bother me.
But things like Raven Guard, they're meant to be sneaky and not seen. They're meant to be shadows in the night. Like, so how can you not have a -1 to hit? Like, how do you fix that?
But they would still have a -1 to hit. They just can't stack it.
Yeah. All right, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I suppose if you get too close, it goes away.
But there was also so considering the main topic of tonight's podcast, one of the things I was contemplating discussing tonight, which we haven't got to yet, and was going to be my main discussion point actually, was would it be negative? Do people out there think it would be negative to take this mess of chapter tactics, of 6 chapter tactics, or 6 legion traits now, or whatever it is now, 9 or 10 legion traits for chaos, or 6 craft word attributes, and scrap them? Do people think that would be negative? This is how it used to be. So
getting rid of them.
Yes. So it used to be you were Marines, okay?
Yeah.
So in 7th edition, and I'm not saying 7th edition was better, but in 7th edition, you used to have a codex of Marines, and you would have Marine-specific rules. They should know no fear, combat squads, and that was about it, I think, okay?
Yeah.
And then basically, apart from named characters that belong to certain chapters, you could take anything you wanted and just paint the army. So I think you would, in my opinion, you are more likely to see more variety of painted colours, and you were also, I believe, more likely to see specifically painted chapter colours. Because what's one of the things that's massively emerged to the surface since all the chapter tactics exist, and maybe this was a GW intention, perhaps, and that is this is my custom chapter. This is my custom craft world. Because it means I can run any tactic I want whenever I go to a tournament. So if the new hot shit is this, I'm going to start suddenly using this chapter tactic.
Yeah. The fact that I've painted them a random collection of colours and then multicoloured, one arm is each different colour is just insane. But or just grey or just something else. You can't. They did quite well in the codex. I like the Marine codex for the sub chapters and taking like the Fulminatas or something like that, and you've got these random collection of other paint schemes, and they gave you the options. That's really cool, and I was hoping that you'd see more of that, but actually you don't see that. You see your custom one that is very similar, but it doesn't have chapter symbols because they don't want to.
They don't want to commit.
No, and it's the same. Like I've got Ultramarines. They are definitely Ultramarines. Like you can't change that because I love blue. Yeah. And but the I couldn't change them now. I can't like put a cross over the shoulder bit.
You could.
It'd be
but you'd have because they're all decals, right?
They are technically. I could strip them.
You could technically repaint the whole thing.
Yeah,
you could. I'm not saying you should.
No,
but you could
paint one pad a different colour and then call them something completely different. And,
yeah. So the thing is, right? There was I think this started in 6th edition, but I might be wrong. I might be shouted at here. So there's been a couple of comments on Twitch for you guys on YouTube that can't see that have said we think it would be negative to get rid of it because you're taking away customization for an army. Okay, and I get that entirely, 100% get that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to remove a level of customization from an army. I want to keep that. I want to keep an army feeling like an army should. So, for example, in 7th edition, there was a massive, if you take X, Y is allowed.
Yeah.
So if you take a White Scars captain, I think it was, or something like that, you could take bikers as troop choices.
Yeah.
If you took, there was options. There was, if you took a Khorne Lord as your warlord, you could take Khorne Berserkers as troop choices and stuff like that. And I'm not remembering it very well. It was a long time ago now. But essentially, you could take specific choices that narratively made your army make more sense because that was the stuff that they more likely used.
Yep.
So perhaps it allowed you to take more...
Wind
and this is the other thing that I think is perhaps a negative. And that is detachments.
Yep.
When they came away from just a combined arms detachment and went, here's loads of detachments you can have, I was really excited by it. I thought it was excellent, okay? And in the early days, I would argue that it was better than it is now. Because if you took a Vanguard detachment or an Outrider detachment, you gained 1 CP. If you took a battalion, you gained 3.
Yep.
Yeah? So if you had a Battle-Forged army that was just an Outrider, you had 4 command points. If you had a battalion, you had 6. The difference of 2 command points wasn't night and day. It wasn't massive.
No.
Now, the difference is 4, and it does make a huge difference.
Massive.
And I think currently, the way that detachments work, it's a bit of a mess because you have people cramming things in lists just to squeeze out command points, and I don't like that. Age of Sigmar, alternatively, I think, shout me down, I think it's got it right. So Age of Sigmar, you start with no command points, I believe. You earn them as the game goes on. So you earn 1 per turn or something, and if you've got a certain character, you can earn another 1, and then you can choose to spend them, or you can choose to save them. And then at the end of turn 1, you might end with 2 command points, or whatever they call them in Age of Sigmar. I'm not very well versed in Age of Sigmar, but you could end up with 2 command points, for example. You could then choose to spend 1 in your next hero phase, I think it's called, which is like a psychic phase, but happens before movement. And then you'd be down to 1, but then you'd earn another 1 for her next turn, another 1 for your hero, and you could be up to 3, or you could save it again and you'd have 4. And basically, because what annoys me about 40k at the moment is that you can spunkle 10 command points in turn 1 if you get first turn for an absolutely devastating first turn that, to some extent, your opponent just can't recover from.
I think it's almost a thing. People
is a thing.
People want to spend them as fast as possible so they don't have the decisions as well. So as soon as you can get rid of them, like you can do the devastating blow as fast as possible, and then that's it. You're all done. Like,
yeah, it is. And if it fails,
and then the story,
you're in the shit. But,
yeah, you are in the shit.
But I like the idea that you might have to build those command points up. So come turn 3, you can suddenly play your heavy trick turn 3 because you've saved your command points up for your big 6 command point spend or whatever it might be. And I'm not saying we copy exactly how AOS works, but I just think it makes sense that that's the case. So maybe you gain a command point a turn, and maybe if your army is battle forged and not a soup, you gain an additional command point. And maybe if your warlord is on the battlefield, you gain an additional command point. So you could gain 3 a turn, depending on the way your army's built. So perhaps you can have a point where you're encouraging people to not soup by giving them a command point bonus per turn when they gain them, and you could spend them. You can spend 1 or 2 on lightning fast reactions, and you keep 1 in your pocket, which means next turn you may end up with 4, but you could not spend them and next turn end up with 6. There's other options where, how about a cap on how many you spend in a turn? That Ridley's just chucked that on Twitch. That's also
like that.
It's possible.
But then where'd you cap it?
But
3?
I like that. I like the tactical sort of decision making process of, do I spend or save? And I like that, the idea that you could potentially, and what you could do at this point is you potentially could introduce stratagems in an army that might be 4 or 5 command points, perhaps, I don't know. That means that you get to turn 4 or turn 3, they could be big devastating stratagems, but you have to get to turn 3 or 4 and save up enough and not chuck them.
Do you think that makes turn 1 a little touchy-feely, little null and void? Because already you can't. It kind of does actually play out properly in a war, I guess, because there is a little touchy-feely moment where you're feeling each other out, and then you're in. And I know I am still talking about Warhammer, but so you're figuring it out, but you can't bring in any reserves because that's not allowed. And then so you get to turn 2, and then suddenly you've got enough command points and you've got reserves. You're just going to see like turn 2 blitz.
Yeah. Where currently we see turn 1 blitzes. So which one's worse?
Yeah. Well, you get, at least you each get a turn.
Which is the worst situation? The one where people get 2 turns, or the one people get 1?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying my answer is the fix. I'm not saying it's the best option. It has been proven to work in. It's been proven to work in AOS relatively well. Most people that I know that play the game, and I don't, so categorically, I might be talking bullshit. But most people that play the game I know think it's quite a positive thing and think it adds a level of tactical flexibility. And on occasion, I do wonder in modern 8th edition 40k, in the way in which they've simplified it, and they've introduced stratagems, and they've introduced chapter tactic traits, and they've introduced the worst stratagem in the history of stratagems, which is the CP reroll. And they've removed that tactical thinking to some degree, because you've got a massive failsafe.
Yeah,
I'm going to go on record as saying that I have come to a conclusion that, in my personal opinion, and there are people that disagree because I've had this argument, command point rerolls are negative for 40k.
Yeah, I like it. From me playing and wanting to go, oh, that was a crap roll. I didn't really roll the dice properly or something like that, and I'm feeling bad. But suddenly I've got this re-roll and I can redo it. I do think it's negative, though. It always feels better when I don't have any command points and I can't re-roll anything.
Part of that depends on what you want from 40k.
Yeah.
Okay? So, if you are from 40k, if what you want is a tabletop war game where you fight each other, then I would argue CP rerolls are positive.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to win and you want to beat your opponent. And there's nothing wrong with that way of playing, categorically. But if you play a type of 40k whereby you enjoy the narrative, the background, the story that your army is telling, I like the idea of scrapping command point rerolls for that. I think they're negative. And the reason why I say that is because this epic thing happens. I played a game yesterday. I'm not going to spoil things because of what I took and what he took. It wasn't filmed, but I'm still not going to spoil it.
Okay.
And a thing happened that shouldn't have happened, and a character survived. And it was one of those things where the guy that failed to wound was wounding on like 2s in melee, and there would have been no saves, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he had 1 wound left, and he's getting smashed over there with a 5-attack thunderhammer, or whatever the hell it was that was going on. And he survived. He failed to hit and to wound with all the 5 dice. Okay, now that's an epic moment. That's an epic moment when he fails and everyone's cheering because it's a narrative game. And for me, the dice are telling me the story.
Yeah.
The dice are telling me that today he's to survive until your opponent goes, re-roll that, and he's dead. And that epic moment's gone.
Yeah.
And that's really negative. Or you have something, I don't know, Khan on 2 wounds left, bearing down on the enemy, and they level the last cannon, and they have a try last pred, and they have 4 last cannons, and they hit 3 times, and they manage to wound none. And it's 2s to wound against Khan. And you think, I'm going to make that charge. And they go, reroll.
Dead.
And do you know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why I think it's really negative. Or they do roll, and they do get through, and Khan's got 2 wounds left, and they go D6 wounds, and they roll a 1. And then you're like, you failed, I survived! Yeah. And and that's it then. That they'll go, oh, reroll.
Or the other way around. It's not you failing, like it's the save. I'll have another go at saving that. Yep. You've just done the last wound off of G-Man, and you've finally like, yes, I've finally done it. And then I go, no, reroll, saved, 3 up.
Yeah.
And you're like,
exactly.
Because it's not a story. No one can blow their own head off with a last pistol in a tournament if you can't CP reroll it.
I just think it takes something off of the hobby.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It just takes something off of the hobby.
There's quite a lot of rerolling in the hobby anyway.
There is, because this is the thing as well. You've already got rerolls to hit from captains and stuff, and Abaddon and Gunnyman. You've got rerolls to wounds from lieutenants and
Gunnyman,
and exactly, and etc. etc. So you've got all this.
Yeah, you've got rerolls everywhere. Dreadnoughts that you can put stuff on and then give them rerolls and
so rerolls are all over the place.
They are. So why do we need more? I agree, and it's. But in counter to that, like the game that we played online, it's what else can I spend my marine stuff on when I just have a pile of CP that mean nothing? I might as well have just left the tokens on the side and carried on playing as normal.
And that's the other thing where, with command points and stratagems, I wonder how positive they are compared to negative. So you are, on occasion, as a Space Marine player, and we've seen this on battle reports, right? You're encouraged to perhaps build your list slightly differently just to be able to use stratagems.
Yeah.
Now, is that positive or negative? Because to some degree, you're now no longer building the list you want based on the stuff that you think's cool.
Yeah.
Because you might miss out on
it's 100% that.
Use stratagems.
Yep. It's the only reason I've got a heavy bolter. It's the only reason I've got a third pred.
So we originally were stopping using command point rerolls as best as we can on the channel. A lot of our patrons do the same thing. I just think I think it came up in Discord first. I just think it's a really positive thing. That's where I got the whole idea from. It's from our patrons. And unfortunately, with Brom playing, we kind of had to stop the rule, right? It's not like I'm not taking the mick, but there was just nothing you could do.
It was the first game we were like, yes, we're not going to use any. We got to turn 3 and I still had all of mine because you killed the one unit that had the ability to have
it's a little bit different now with the formation and intercessor veterans and stuff like that. You've got stuff you've got a little bit more you can spend them on. But I don't understand it. I just think. And then was also the other thing is when command point rerolls were first introduced, it was with 3 stratagems that was introduced with the launch of the 8th edition rulebook.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I was chatting about this previously, complexity-wise with 40k. When a faction had access to 3 stratagems, not as the exact same 3 stratagems that another army had, it was relatively balanced because you could both do the same things. So I knew what my opponent could do. When you introduce faction-specific stratagems. Now, for me, this is where we potentially, and it's a bit of an overhaul. I'll warn people now, they might not like it. It's a bit of an overhaul. This is potentially where we could fix faction-specific rules. So I would scrap the 3 pages of stratagems that every army gets. I would scrap chapter tactics, personally. Keep faction-specific or chapter-specific characters. I would bring in a chapter-specific rule that was a little bit more narrative than what currently exists. Not exactly the same. Maybe White Scars gets bikes as troops, and what's the other ones? Imperial Fists get things like Centurions, or they can take more Centurions. You see what I'm saying? They get better options. Keep faction-specific relics and faction-specific warlock traits, all up for that. And perhaps each faction, Iron Warriors, and I'm using Space Marines as an example because you play them.
Yep. Ultramarines,
Raven Guard, etc. Perhaps they have 4 stratagems each. So when you then pick your army and you pick to use Ultramarines, you get the 3 rulebook stratagems, you get your 4 faction-specific stratagems, you get your faction-specific warlord trait, your faction-specific relics, maybe 2.
Yep.
And that's enough for me to be customization that you probably will still. I mean, the problem you've got is if there's no balance in the stratagems, people will still pick the same chapter. I don't know.
I kind of think you've just got to. It depends on your 40k, really, because the narrative people will pick what they want to pick because they want to pick it, and typically, however much I might buy models that can now use those stratagems, I still will. Now, lean on the ones that I like the more.
As much as I hate to admit this, Sorcerer Dave just come up with what is probably one of the best points I've seen on Twitch for a long time as well. When we talk about this stuff, and we talk about balancing 40k, and we talk about how faction-specific rules would work or whatever, we always talk about they get this bonus, and they get this bonus, and they get this bonus, and they get this bonus. And we do that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at the moment in 8th edition, we are used to gaining a bonus.
Yeah.
With almost no negative. Apart 100%. From the fact that you might not get out. So you might pick Raven Guard because you gain the bonus of -1, and the thing you lose is you can't take Gullyman. But I mean, that's by the by, it's not really a true negative to that particular army necessarily. And what he said is everyone talks about giving armies bonuses, but never negatives. If White Scars get bikes as troops, for example, they should have a penalty as well. 100% agree with this.
Yeah.
Because if LA Talk and their -1 to hit modifier also gave you a negative of some sort, I don't know what, but gave you a negative of some sort.
Couldn't pivot or the second time or something like that. Something drastic.
Pass.
As well.
Something that really hurts. Yeah. Then I think people go, oh, the bonus is good, but the negative, I'm going to have to... That adds a tactical element to your chapter tactic or your craft order tribute or your regimental doctrine or whatever you're using. And that at that point, yes. Yes.
Like Ultramarines have a negative to theirs, but it's not big enough.
Do they?
Yeah, you fall back and shoot at -1.
But that's
the
not
minus
negative.
one's not big enough.
That's not a negative. It's a positive.
No, it's still a positive. You get
because
out
no
of
one
combat.
else can fall back and shoot unless they've got a fly keyword.
It's a negative within it.
but it's a negative within a positive that it's an overall positive.
It is still an overall positive.
Yeah,
100%. That's what I was getting at. It's not a big enough negative not to fall out of combat, unless you.
So there's lots of things in here. Dark Artisans just said like Free Blade Knights, exactly like Free Blade Knights, exactly. People at LATOC, less access to heavy support. There you go. So if you're taking a LATOC and you're sneaking around and you've got -1, maybe you can't take Fire Prisms and Night Spinners.
You shouldn't be able to.
Exactly that.
Raven Guard as well. It would be the same. You can't take Predators or your Land Raiders. Something massive and like heavy and loud.
That, for me, that is probably an even more elegant fix than anything else coming up with so far. I do still think I genuinely believe we're bogged down in stratagems, I think a little bit in my opinion. Yeah. And I do also believe that having access to some people, 15 to 18 command points from turn 1 is bad. I personally don't think that's good. I think that's bad. And being encouraged to build lists in certain ways, it means, I know what, I'm going to take a double battalion. Not because it's fluffy, but because I want all these extra command points. I just don't like it personally. I'm not a fan. And it is my preference, and I understand that other people will think differently to me. Get that? Totally get that. But I do think it is a negative that you can have access to all that stuff straight away. You've got 3 pages of stratagem straight away. If you get turn 1, you can, and this is one of the negatives with 8th edition. John from Visicast is on about coming to the studio soon to film, not to play a game. Yeah. And if he plays a few games, he's on about coming back to the studio to film a game for 8th edition. And he's on about coming and filming for Warhammer. He doesn't want to do Visicast again. No. And his biggest concern from the days when he gave up 8th edition in the really early start of 8th edition is, he said to me, and it's hard for me to lie to him, he said to me, have they fixed the problem? What problem? Have they fixed the fact that you win or lose the game in the first turn? Now, to some extent they have. Okay?
I wouldn't.
Some of the mission changes and stuff like that, and some of the fixes they've done to points and whatever, to some extent they have. But it is still more than plausible in 8th edition at the moment, with certain matchups specifically, and certain builds, command point stratagems, etc., that you can win or lose a game in turn 1.
Yeah. No, I get that. If you're it depends what type of game you're trying to play. 100%. If you're just trying to smash the hell out of your opponent, you can lose very quickly if they new to your models. Yeah. And with the missions, if you don't play them properly, then you're out of it. You could deploy completely badly. But there is also, I play badly probably most of the time, but I can still get back into the game and I can fight my way back in, because there is the possibility with certain missions. You can go, yes, I can go and capture that, and I can stop you taking that one, and that's got me enough points now. I'm starting to creep back in.
There's certain situations I'm not arguing about. Like,
I think the chapter improved missions are a lot better.
I'm not a competitive player. I'd like to be a competitive player.
Yeah.
I'm not a competitive player. I wouldn't like to be a competitive player so I could show that on the channel. That's not the point. I just would like to be able to, if I came up against another competitive player. Yeah, I think most people naturally are. Yeah. But I would just like that if I was able to come up against a competitive person, I could wind the dial up to 10 and hold my own. And I don't. At the moment, I put the stuff on the table and I have all this competitive stuff in my head. And I have this game plan and I know what I'm going to do. And then the game starts and I go, ooh, shiny, and I'm off. And I just want to kill stuff. And someone's like, are you going to draw your cards? Oh yeah, cards.
There's a thing over there.
And then you draw your cards and go, oh, I wouldn't have moved them. Oh, too late now. So that's me. That's how I play. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I want 8th edition to be in a place where if I did that against a hyper-competitive player, I still stood a chance, because that shouldn't happen, right? No. Because he's a better player, and better players should, to some degree, win. Yeah. Of course, because they're better players, it makes sense. But I want to, when I come up against a player of equal ability, if you get beat by the dice, that's one thing. That happens to all of us. Yeah. Everybody has an epic dice rolling day, and everybody has a terrible dice rolling. It just happens. Yeah. That happens to everybody. And the law of averages, it will probably average itself out over a while. Yeah. What I don't like being beaten by when I'm playing playing against a player who's probably my equivalent is being beaten by the codex rather than the player or the dice. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
So if you had 2 equally matched players, completely 100% equally matched players, one person took the strongest codex currently in existence, monofaction, probably Drakari, maybe.
You could take possibly. A Tau list.
Tau, maybe, yeah, okay. Yeah. So Tau's another one. And then you take a player, hypothetically, the exact same skill level, and you gave him Grey Knights, okay, as a codex.
So exactly the same skill level. Now, you play a game of 8th edition against each other, and you put a stipulation down right now that says that throughout this game, both of you will have exactly mathematical dice. So instead of rolling dice, what we're going to do is use the law of perfect averages, and we're going to mathematically work out the results. Okay, so we're going to math hammer the result.
That would be
Who wins?
Interesting way.
Who wins?
Well, if it's Tau, you're going to shoot him off the board.
Tau wins, or Drakari wins. Grey Knights don't win.
Yeah.
And that is one of my issues with the way this game currently works. Now, I've gone on camera saying before, and I will say this again, and people have called me a bit of a GW arse kisser for this. It is probably impossible to completely balance this game.
You're dealing with people. They're dealing with people as a customer base. Obviously, you're never going to make everyone happy. Therefore, it won't be fixed.
No, true.
It can't be. But even in people's views that are like sat on the fence, and you get all those fence sitters that are actually quite nice and where I sit, and
comfortable over there.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable. But you get all those people that have like a nice middle road opinion. You still won't make all of them happy.
No, true.
Because
agree.
It's very, very hard. Because someone will like Marines, and someone will like Grey Knights, and someone will like Tau, and someone will like Necron, and be like, oh, where's my love? Because it can't make everyone happy.
And 100% you can't make everyone happy.
100%.
You never will. It's an impossible task in life.
Especially over a period where they're releasing things staggered. If they released everything all at once, and they'd made everything exactly the same, but you just use different models for the exact same things, then maybe.
But I mean, and again,
not a nice game.
As a business, that's unsustainable. Like, they don't make that much money from doing it that way, and that sounds very not narcissistic. That's the wrong word. That sounds very cynical. That's the right word. Yeah. I'm saying that they are a business, and the way that they survive and they produce us more models, more kits, more narrative, is by making money. Yeah. Because no business succeeds if they don't make money. So I get what they do. For me, one of the biggest problems, and we've spoken about this on numerous occasions, even with chapter tactics, even with stratagems, even with command points, even with all the faction-specific rulings, for me, there's still fundamental flaws in the way certain things work. And what I mean by that is Space Marines are Space Marines. Space Marines in the lore and the narrative, and I know you can't make them exactly like the lore and the narrative, otherwise Space Marines would be throwing Leman Russ tanks at people, but Space Marines are supposed to be the galaxy's heroes. Grey Knights are supposed to be the most elite of Space Marines, and then the next level up is like Custodes or whatever. Yeah. Okay, and Grey Knights are pap. They are fucking dreadful. And that's not even oversight on their part, it's just terrible rules writing and overcosting units. You've got an army that supposedly is psychically gifted across the park, whose smite is worse than everybody else's. 1 mortal wound. That's it. The only time it improves is if they're playing that 1 in... How many armies are there in 40k? Like 16? A 1 in 16 chance they're playing demons. And then they get 3. Whoop.
Yeah, I mean, they've got more models that can do it. But... So you can kind of get smites off across the board a little bit more, but yeah, I get what you mean. It's not a feasible strategy. It's not enough to go. I'm going to go rely on my smite.
Yeah, and their smite, because they're psychically gifted army across the board, should be. And then you have other things with things like Grey Knights Day. Again, the most elite Space Marines and their codex choices are very restricted compared to other armies. Yeah. And that becomes another issue. You look at something like AdMech and you compare how many choices they have to someone like Guard, and they are night and day in differences as to how many choices they can have. Yeah. And then you have armies that are arguably what you would consider perhaps easy to play. Knights. It doesn't, for risk of people screaming at me, especially one of our patrons, Josh, it doesn't take a lot of skill to play Knights. I mean, to win a tournament, yeah, it's hard 100%. To win a tournament with Knights. I'm not saying they are tournament winners. What I'm saying is they're a very easy faction to play and do well with. For me, whilst we're talking about faction-specific rules being good or bad for 40k, to some degree, having Titanic units in standard 40k, Knights, super heavy tanks, that sort of stuff, is a bit of a negative. Yeah. When it all came out years ago, I got very excited about the fact that I can have big stompy creatures in 40k. Big stompy creatures. And when the Wraith Knight first came out for Eldar, it was a heavy support choice. Very good rules, but a heavy support choice nonetheless. wasn't that bad, could be taken down by what was the old school poison and stuff like that. And then when I think it was 7th, it might have been 6th dropped, it changed to this new sort of Titanic type. Well, it's gargantuan monstrous creature at the time, essentially Titanic. And they introduced all the Titanic stuff into 40k, and it ruined it.
Yeah.
And I still think to this day they've tried to address the problem. So they've clearly identified the fact that it's an issue, because now a strength 3 last gun can wound a toughness 8 knight. But I just think that there's a strong potential that I could go and build a narrative list on my shelves at the moment of say 1750 points, and if I come up against 4 or 5 knights, it's impossible for me to win, because I'll get blown off the table and I will barely scratch them. Not always the case, don't get me wrong, but
weight of dice will help you a little bit, but you don't. Like, if you took your berserkers against my knights, you'd probably take one down.
If I can get near it,
If you can get near it.
And that's the key.
And I'm big enough that I can run away.
Yeah. I just think they are, and I would argue that to some degree, flyers. So there's 2 things in recent 40k they've kind of bolted on to 40k since 5th edition, I want to say. They bolted on knights and they bolted on flyers.
Yeah.
And they had knight rules and fly rules they never had before. I say knight rules, Titanic rules and fly rules they never had before. And I would if they came out tomorrow and said, here's a vote to the 40k community, at 8th edition that isn't Apocalypse or a different name, we're going to remove flyers and we're going to remove Titanic units, vote yes or no, I would tick yes immediately, without any shadow of a doubt. I own knights and flyers. And I would go, yep, get rid of them.
Yeah,
get rid of them.
Yeah. Full scale Armageddon battles.
Armageddon, bring them all back. Chuck them all on the table. Don't care. Happy with that sort of stuff. Maybe for me, the restriction needs to be a points level thing. So perhaps at under 2,000 points, you cannot take Titanic keyword. At over 2,000 points, you can take Titanic keyword, for example. If you do something like that, yeah, perfect. I'm okay with that. Because at that point, at over 2,000 points, if you haven't at that point bought enough anti-tank to deal with a Titanic unit, you're probably doing something wrong. Yeah, to be fair.
Just hordes of Primaris Space Marines.
But if you were to do that and bring that sort of rule in, I would quite happily also go back to Strength 3 doesn't wound a Toughness 8 creature. I don't want the old wound chart back, because that was crap. But
I never got it.
But perhaps if the strength is less than half of the toughness, at that point it can't harm the Titanic creature. So strength 4 would still be able to wound toughness 8 on 6s, but strength 3 wouldn't be able to. Very simple adjustment to the rule, easy to remember. If it's less than half the toughness, you can't wound. But that's because at 2,000 points you'd have 1 Titanic creature, so it's okay, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Go on.
I'm not sold.
Go on, tell me.
No, I agree that they are a bit of a pain. It's not necessarily that they're bad. I don't mind facing like 1 Titanic creature in this sort of thing. It's when they can multiply and you go up against a whole knight army or multiple Wraith Knights. They're not great. I'm not saying
Wraith Knights are poo.
Yeah, I know. They're not great, but they're still multiple ones. They're big, shiny, like.
Well, I mean, when you talk multiples, the strength 3, strength of the last gun, sorry. When you talk multiples, the only thing we're really talking about there is knights, to be fair.
Typically, yeah.
Soon to be also renegade knights.
Yes. Because there'll be more of them. And
because renegade knights are a thing, and renegade knights, depending on the what's the word I'm looking for? Stratagems and traits and stuff, could potentially end up being worse than normal knights, because a renegade knight can take 2 Gatling cannons on one, or 2 flamers on a Valiant, or 2 plasma decimators on a Castellan. So they could be worse. Lee said Nurglings couldn't win Marines. Wrong. Nurglings are half the toughness, not less than half the toughness. They're not strength 1. People say you should allow your opponent to tailor their list to deal with knights, but like a lot of people don't have enough to. Exactly. So he says a lot of people don't have enough models to do that. That's the thing. I don't want to, and Toby's right here. I don't want to go out and buy a load of stuff
just to be
able to fight knights. I want to be able to take my all-round list.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, you can't tailor if you're going to a tournament anyway. So if you're going to a tournament, you're going to build a list that could take on what's it called? Eldar or Tau, because they're currently Tau quite strong, and you're going to build a list that could take on Tau, that could take out shield drones and fire warriors and stuff. You're going to end up with a load of stuff that's probably relatively ineffective against knights on the whole, potentially. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a fix to it. I think that there are so many things to me that could potentially or do potentially have a negative effect to the way the game is played on the tabletop. I would include chapter tactics in that. I'm not saying I don't want customization. I do want customization that makes Ultramarines and makes Blood Angels and makes World Eaters. I do want customization. I do want a chapter or a legion or a craft world to feel like that craft world or that legion or that chapter. 100% I do. But I think the way it currently does encourages people to stick to a specific trait across. And there'll be lots of people that will have custom Eldar that just so happen to be using an Elatok trait.
Yeah.
And when that gets nerfed to high heaven in the future, if that ever happens, they might suddenly all be using the Ulthway trait. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a positive to that. There is, right? There is a positive because GW are now in the mood of, okay, tournament players are abusing it, nerf that, and that gets hit hard. And if someone has painstakingly painted their army Elatok colours because they like the Elatok fluff, which does happen, stop laughing, it does happen. If people do that, if people paint them that painstaking Elatok colours, and then GW, because of certain tournament scenes, groups, players, nerf back to high heaven, I would genuinely feel very, 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 very sorry for that player who then goes, my army is almost unusable now. I might be tempted to repaint it. Yeah. Now, there are most people who are in it for the narrative would stick with it anyway because they like the narrative.
Yeah.
But I still don't think it's that fair that your army then gets very adversely affected by a scene that you're not involved in, and that's why if you are painting a custom craft world, and you paint your whole army that custom craft world, and you like the Elatok fluffs, you're using Elatok, not because they're broken, honest, it happens. Then and they nerf bat it. Potentially, then you could go, all right, I'm going to have to switch to something that is a little bit more usable to take on my friends' knights or whatever. So I might switch to Ulthway. And you don't have to repaint a whole army, potentially.
Yeah, I would feel bad for that person. But if you, I think what they've got already is better than they had in 7th for giving flavour. I think it does allow flavour to the narrative person that's out there to kind of get a different feel and slightly. I do think it's better than 7th. I didn't play massively earlier editions, so I can't really talk about those, but.
You're about the formation bonuses and stuff? Yeah, that was terrible.
It was terrible.
Categorically, you want to never go back there. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So, I think if you've got these traits, that's good. I think there's a few too many stratagems because you can get lost in them, and actually having a few simple ones that were a bit more maybe. Although we say that actually we kind of want the same ones, or maybe a few specific ones, but. Think about when the Marine Codex came out, and then the next Codex came out, and they went, "Oh, they've just copied that one. They've moved that one along, and they've renamed it."
Yeah.
And everyone complained. They went, "Oh, that's a bit boring. It's not really different."
And that's one of the issues, right? Mildly off topic. GW Rock hard place. Okay, we'll bring out 6 or 7 different chapter tactics, and we'll apply them to every single army, so everybody has an even balance. Well, we hate that because everything's balanced and it's the same and it's boring. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change in the next codex. They're all going to be different. Oh, that's really unfair. They've got better ones than us.
Yeah, I want my one. I want that one over there.
Exactly.
I've painted mine this colour, and I can't take it because it's
rock hard place. Yeah. Rock hard place, without a shadow of a doubt, and that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But there are also, in seriousness, there are also some traits that are good and not ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. I think Winters, okay, my business partner DZ, he gets pre-release codexes. He does reviews.
Yeah.
The boys at TTT do reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Scar does reviews. All these people do reviews on the new codexes, the new things that come out, right? And every single one of them will get the new codex or the new thing that's come out, and they'll look at the new chapter tactics, legion traits, whatever. And every single one of them will straight away go, that one's good, that one's good, that one's bad, that one's average, that one's shit.
Yeah, because they can see.
Now, if you can do that off the bat, it's bad.
Yeah.
Straight away. It's bad. If you can go, good, bad, shit, that's crap. If you go, ooh, there's 5 here and I don't know which one to pick, that's a good book.
Yeah.
And it occurs in some books. Some books have that.
Some people rate different traits over each other as well. So, and I know that's like... So, for example, Winters' Orc army that he's playing, he now currently he's got the lucky gits, and they can Murphy's Wire, and he can roll one at a time, like a dice per phase for each unit.
I haven't watched one.
Oh, awkward. So he
don't tell him.
I was watching for Mikey P. I mean Winters and Mikey P. So he can roll them, but that's very similar as Salamanders.
Yeah.
So but he likes that, and actually when Mikey came back and said played Winters and this was a game, and he said that was a really good trait. Surprising. Salamander's really good trait actually.
Yeah, they are. Winters
but no one goes for it.
Well, this is interesting actually. Winters is sort of mantra when he's picking traits or dogmas or anything. He basically tries to pick something that's simple.
Yeah.
Because he's a simple man, and he
won't remember it otherwise.
And to be fair, being the man behind the camera, it is tough.
Yeah,
but all the other people that are watching that film Battle Reports will tell you that it's tough to remember your rules, to remember the mission, to remember that you're talking to an audience, to remember what's going on, to keep track of the battle, to keep track of everything, to some degree remember your opponent's rules, because you want to make sure you catch everything that's wrong. It's a lot that goes on. And in modern day 8th edition, when you've got multiple command points, multiple stratagems, warlord traits all over the place, relics, all this kind of stuff going on, and these convoluted missions, which are great for storytelling.
Yeah.
There's a lot to remember. So he picks the simplest ones, basically, to try and remember them, because it means he probably won't forget.
Yeah.
And I get that, because some of them are a little bit more complex than others. Definitely some of them are a little bit more complex than others. Most of them are relatively simple, but some have a couple of layers of complexity and stuff. So he tries to pick the simplest ones. And there are people out there that will naturally gravitate towards perhaps the simplest one. Perhaps they'll naturally gravitate towards one that benefits them in melee, because they like the combat phase. So people don't necessarily... It's not like the Space Marine book drops and everybody plays Ultramarines, apart from they do. Or everybody plays Elatok, or everybody plays Cabal of the Black Heart, whatever.
Tau set.
Everybody plays Tau set. That's not the case.
No.
But it is interesting to see as well how many people take what some of these people like Winters say, or Lawrence says, and that's the one they'll use. And you look at some of the other traits, like the one you were just talking about, Salamanders. I think Salamanders, in my honest opinion, is an incredible trait.
Yeah.
There's a problem in Marines, which we'll touch on in just a second. Tau is Sakir or Sasir. I don't know how you say it. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's Sakir or Sasir. That's also a free reroll per turn. Free reroll per unit per shooting phase. Now, if you have 15 units, that's 15 rerolls. Yeah. That's 15 command points for free.
And you get a +1 to your leadership.
Well, there's that buff as well, yeah.
So it's like win-win-win.
But it's 15 command points for free.
Yeah.
Salamanders, 15 units, and you can reroll a hit and a wound roll. That's 30 rerolls for free.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I mean, your Tau one, you only get to reroll a single failed hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 15 units, all shooting. Potentially you've got 15 rerolls. Now, the one thing that really irks me about Marines and Chaos, for that matter, is that they only give it to infantry, bikers, or dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
I don't understand. If that was the case, so if they went to Eldar and said, Eldar, get it for infantry, Wraith, constructs, excluding the knight, and jet bike keywords.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. And then you don't get it on wave serpents, fire prisms.
So you
hemlocks.
mean balance it a little bit more?
I mean that opens up a level of sort of fairness across different codexes. Why should one get it for every single unit in the codex, pretty much, and one get it for infantry, dreadnoughts, and bikers? One of them, if you were to apply the same rules to both codexes, so if you say we'll go for the simplistic approach of Marines get it for everything as well. If you apply that and you apply the one is still a stronger codex than the other, in my opinion.
Yeah, Eldar's a little bit better.
Yeah, by quite a distance, in my opinion. You know,
I think you can get dirtier with the list in Eldar. You can do more shenanigans with the Eldar psychic powers and the buffing, and it just the synergy's a little bit better.
There's some really simple things as well that make them a better army. For example, 3 squads of Guardians is 240 points. I know that's more expensive than 3 squads of 5 Space Marines, but you're going to do more with Guardians every day of the week.
Well, yeah, your shuriken weaponry it can do more
and
damage.
When you see an Eldar player in a competitive list will happily take 20 Guardians in a squad, and then the Space Marine players spamming 5 scouts, and that's his troops.
Yeah.
You know that one's a good troops choice at his points cost, and one is bad. Right? It's obvious, isn't it? And the fact that you never see Space Marines because you see Primaris Marines or you see Scouts means that Marines have a problem.
Yeah.
And how do we fix it? Who knows? I don't know the answer to that one.
No.
Because if you drop the points, Scouts are less viable. If you give them 2 wounds, you step on Primaris territory. It's just hard to balance it. It is, though, but it is. It's like and this is the thing. My honest opinion is that 40k is. Some people will hate this. 40k is not for competitive play.
It's a narrative game.
It's a narrative game based on a story. 40k is not for competitive play. Competitive players are trying to make it for competitive play, and GW, bless their hearts, are working very hard to try and balance it for those competitive players, but I don't think they ever will, because I just don't think it is competitive play.
Yeah, I get that.
40k is a Dungeons and Dragons type game.
100%.
Chess is competitive. Yes. Simple. Based on strategy. Isn't it?
Yep.
It was chess. 16 pieces, 20 pieces, 16 pieces? I think it's 16. 2 rows of 8, right? Chess? On an 8x8 board?
Yeah.
So two rows of 8. Every single player, you and your opponent got the exact same pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You and your opponent got the exact same rules. You and your opponent got the exact same time frame.
Yeah.
The only difference is one of you gets to go first. Competitive game. 40k. Millions of units, millions of rules. Not competitive.
No.
It's not competitive. It's a Dungeons and Dragons type game. It's for telling a story. It's for living out the epic battles of the 41st millennium, or even the 31st millennium, if that's what you prefer, for 30k. It's not competitive. And in my honest, heartfelt opinion, those people that are trying to turn it into a very competitive version of the game potentially could be ruining it little piece by little piece for us who don't want that. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I do.
Look at not the last FAQ, but the one before, where they did the nerf to the fly keyword that I ranted about so many times. That was a major rules change that affected every single one of us because of something that a GW rules writer had seen in a tournament.
Yep.
And that hurt all of us.
Direct impact backwards on ourselves. Because of one incident when they saw it was being...
And maybe, actually...
pushed too hard.
Potentially making the whole of this podcast pointless. But maybe if that competitive stuff wasn't going on in 40k,
chapter tactics would be fine.
This whole chat about our faction specific rules bad for 40k wouldn't be a thing, because people wouldn't just be trying to abuse every rule that pops up.
Massively.
Maybe. That's not definite.
Because then people play it because they like the army, surely.
Yeah.
And you find that with most narrative people. They don't go and say, I'm going to rebuild. Like Andy Burns said it. He picks the one he likes because that's the narrative. It's his Gene Stealer cult don't use the best trait. They use the one he wants.
And that's the thing that's amazing in our Discord is we are very blessed to be joined by over 100 people in Discord who are 99% about the narrative in there.
Yeah.
And they do things and convert things and build things and put things together because rule of cool.
Full rule of cool.
And that's the feel for our community. And I feel like if the whole of the 40k community was that way, it would be a significantly more enjoyable place to be. A comment got mentioned way up in the chat that you guys on YouTube won't have seen, and I've been waiting to bring up on it. But basically, we have events that get run by our patrons in Discord. Okay, they come under various names. There's 2 different main ones at the moment, and these guys put together weekend events essentially for people to go to. Mm-hmm. So think tournament. The next one that's coming up is a knockout. The one after that's a 5-game thing. So think tournaments. 5 games over a course of a weekend. It's not a tournament. It's a narrative event.
Specifically, a comment came up in it over the last couple of days. I say I wasn't on it much over the weekend, but I did see it over the weekend, where one of them that was asking about the weekend said, so I could take a competitive list and what do I get for winning? And they went, you don't get a prize for winning. I mean, we have a trophy for first, but it's the smallest one. You actually get prizes for narrative thought, the story behind it, and everything else that goes into it. And that's one of the brilliant things, because I turned up and had Ultramarines at the last one, and mine was limited in my narrative, but I went to roll dice and I played my thematic army that was all painted well.
And I don't think the last one was 3 games.
It was 3 rounds for me.
Because it was one day, wasn't it? 3, yeah.
It's 3 games, yeah.
So 3 games on 9 turns if you play Brom over the course of the whole day. But the last one was 3 games.
3 games.
And I don't know a single person that walked away from that event who didn't enjoy themselves over all 3 games. There are people that I know that went there that got beat 3 times out of 3 games and came away going, that was great fun. Mm-hmm. That's an event.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm very specifically using the word event over tournament because it's an event, not a tournament. It's an event where you go there and enjoy yourself, and you go there and you play it against like-minded people, and you do things against each other that might not be the most cheesy, dirty, broken combo. It might not be the most important point of that, but it's the thing that makes more narrative sense, or something on some occasions is just the funniest thing to do at that point in time.
My first game, I played against Callum, and Callum had his AdMech, and he was charging forward and I had to stop it. And the nearest thing that I could see that would do some damage was my captain, my warlord. And I was like, no, he's stepping forward, he's taking this. I mean, he got slapped and I lost warlord. But he stood there for a whole turn and took an absolute shed load of fire for it. Yeah. And that was a moment. He then completely concentrated on that and he did win. But the point was we just pushed forward. It was like it was cracking game. Yeah. And you wouldn't normally necessarily do that. You'd hide your captain at the back.
How many times do you see a captain in a Space Marine list hidden at the back, buffing things
in Gravis armor with the extra
rather
buffers,
than stepping forward?
Yeah,
and the thing is, we're also very blessed that it seems to be the way people take the attitude people take towards the games and DCTV as well. On Deployment Zone, we go for narrative stuff. Yeah. There was the video we filmed recently with you versus Chewie, which was cut the head. Is it the one we have the 3 intel points?
Yes.
It does come out tomorrow, actually, on deploymentzone.tv. And you were picking units not because you wanted to hide them to keep your intel points, but he should be one because of who he is.
Yep. I had to. There was a very clear decision where I could have taken an ancient who had a banner, who was never going to go charging forward, and he was going to be stood behind someone that could protect him. Yeah. Or I take the smash captain, and it was like, well, he's a captain, he should have a point. Like that's not even not even a decision. It kind of has to.
That game is out tomorrow, or if this is going up on YouTube, it's already out on deploymentzone.tv. And this is the game where Brom changes.
I've reverted back. Don't worry.
There's no evidence of that yet because you haven't played.
No, I know.
Brom changes. He's a changed man.
Yeah.
Don't let that smile or grin confuse you. Changed man.
Balance is hard, and some of the units that Chewie took was hard to balance against.
Winters and I work hard as much as we can to balance this before the game starts.
It's an art, and I haven't got it.
We will genuinely often ask people what they're bringing, not because we want to tailor to win, but we want to tailor to try and make it balanced as best as we can, and it's hard. I find it harder than Winters does for 2 reasons. First of all, he's got significantly more experience than me at doing it, and secondly, he has a lot more options for his armies than I do, so he finds it easier to ramp up or ramp down.
Yes.
Now, currently with the Internal Slaughter, my Black Legion warband, or World Eaters, depending on the mood I'm in at the time, I have about that much space because of the variety I have.
You definitely do.
Now, with the stuff that's away at Blazing Brush getting painted, our official painting studio that's soon to be coming back, that will start to become much more slidable scale of what we can take. And that makes it easy to balance, of course, but some people aren't naturally in that good place where they can do that. So I would like to say to someone who's coming on the channel, bring what you want, but tell me, and I will try and match your power level. I say your power level, I don't like to use that because it's an actual thing in 40k, but I'll try and match your strength in your army and with what I have. And that's something that you and this is what I'm talking about when I talk about competitive play not really being beneficial to us as a hobby sort of community, because you can't do that at an event. No. So when we have people come into the studio, I will be honest, I'll go on camera saying that some of the games I've played in the studio against certain people, not just this studio, but the studios we've operated out of, against yourself, Plasma Sam, Chewie, Steve Not Rob, Winters, some of them are some of the most exciting games I've ever played in 40k, and I truly believe that part of that is down to the fact that we were able to balance it a little bit before the game started. Now, in a tournament scene, you just can't do that, and if you come up against your hard counter, you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
Full stop. you're going to have a bad day. And that's it. It's all you can do. And I'm not a fan of that as being a thing, because at that point, I think to some extent, and there are mitigating factors, but to some extent, one player doesn't have a good time for a game.
Yep.
And I mean, I've played against a player, a Hellstorm 2, who pretty much kicked my back doors in. And it was more enjoyable because he was a really nice guy, and we had a real good time having a giggle. As from a playing my hobby perspective with my army, it wasn't that much fun, because I'm basically removing my models sort of piece by piece, so it wasn't that much fun. Anyway, I think we've well and truly not talked about faction-specific rules on the whole.
I think we've done well, yes. I think we've mentioned 3, maybe 4.
We've talked about a few, but we've talked about the whole... I've tried to talk about the whole enveloping bubble of stratagems, faction-specific rules, and how they kind of... For me, if it was what I think the game's designed at, and that's a pure RPG type game, a game that's about the narrative and about the story, I don't think any of this is a problem at all. I think you've got it spot on.
Yeah.
To some extent, with the exception of looking at things like Grey Knights and what have you.
Yeah.
But if you look at this from a competitive standpoint, which they seem to be keen to support at the moment, which for me isn't necessarily a terrible business decision from the company, but annoys me that affects our 40k. I then think this is a mess.
A little bit.
Personally. But, maybe.
I'm not repainting the Ultramarines.
Are we going to have a nice longing look into the camera as we get Brom's final thoughts? I want Brom's final thought. We can do it now because it's looking at you, and I want to put you under the spot right now.
Well, I don't think it's bad. I like the flavour that you can give, and yes, it is a little bit competitive broken, but I don't know. It doesn't affect my Marines. My Ultramarines are lovely and I like them, and I'm doing quite well. But it is a shame that you don't see Imperial Fists more and Salamanders more. And then thinking outside of that, you don't see the other... I wouldn't even be able to list the different Tau Seps. I say Tau Seps. The Tau chapter tactics. Because are they Seps? All right, yeah, they're Seps. All right, because I don't know them. I only know Tau Sept, and it happens to be called Seps. So that's it. The dynasties, there's different Necron dynasties. Mefret is one.
Mefret's probably one of the most common, yeah.
There we go. So that's the only one I know.
That's probably why you know it.
Yeah. So you start, I don't play them. We don't come across them, and yeah, it's bad. Really bad. I would.
So you say you don't. So part of your thought was you say you don't like. You don't think it's that much of an issue.
Yeah.
You've been to, and this isn't a criticism. This is a genuine observation. You've been to sort of one competitive tournament.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you play mates, fun games,
which is why I don't think it's a problem.
So you've kind of, kind of without trying to be like, I'm right. You've kind of proved my point a little bit. No,
exactly. No, it's that point. Yeah. It's because I'm sure if we had Mikey from Hellstorm on, he'd have a different view and a different opinion because he is very competitive and he lives in a competitive world, and that's not the world that necessarily I want to win. Don't get me wrong, and I'd like to play well, but I'm not gonna.
I don't think any single person turns up to a tabletop at any game, whether it's against their best friend, a tournament, or whatever they're doing, wanting to lose. I think everybody wants to win that little bit. And then it becomes about how, for me, the balance is almost how desperate do you want to win? Are you more worried about winning than you are about the story? Or are you more worried about the narrative? When you hit turn 5 or turn 4 or turn 5, are you more worried about the narrative than you are about the winning? And I think that's a very different type of player mentality. And some fall into category A, and some fall into category B. And for me, there's nothing wrong with falling into either category. So although I'm saying categorically that I think tournament play is having a negative effect on 40k, I haven't got problems with people playing competitive play. I just don't want that to affect my Warhammer, my 40k. I want my 40k to be separate to that competitive stuff, and I don't want it to be... And on the whole, I'm quite lucky. On the whole, I am quite lucky because with the games we play in here in the studio, the games we play on Warhammer, the games we play on deploymentzone.tv are falling into category B, where I'm going to probably pick the narrative over the win if I get the chance. And if I could stay on this objective and defend it with Khan for the winning victory point, or I can charge off and cut your warlord's head off, I'm probably going to pick option B, because that's more likely what I would want to see him do in a narrative setting.
It's why your plans never work.
Yeah,
because you play that type of army and they always run off and kill things. So, yeah.
It's interesting, right?
It's very interesting. And I'm glad that we've not completely just stuck on chapter tactics. We've gone off and like reviewed the whole game.
Yeah.
Because it is a whole game, and it completely changes if you change one massive dynamic. If you change the way turns work, then chapter tactics become less of a problem. And if you did what bolt action do, and you go off on different tangents massively, and change the problem.
There's a really interesting comment in here that I want to read out quite quickly from Eben Meister. It says, Liam, judge things on if they're fun in the hands of fun players, not if they're fun in the hands of unfun players. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important, I think, comments as well. If you aren't enjoying yourself, I'm trying to pick apart chapter tactics for a couple of reasons. The first reason is I think there is some flaws and issues with them. And I think the fact that you still see people encouraged to take maybe one more than others, even some of the more fun players, means that there's a minor balance issue. The other thing is we need topics for the podcast. Otherwise we run out of stuff to talk about, right? So we have to talk about something, and I like something that gets people worked up and gets people discussing. There are a lot of things that have been going up in the Twitch comments today, and I'm sure a lot of the things that will pop up in the YouTube comments later will be people's ways of fixing things, which inherently means to me that this is a topic for discussion. Because if people have already thought about ways of fixing things, they already think there's a minor issue there. Maybe even a major issue. But they obviously think something isn't as good as it could be, otherwise they wouldn't come up with a fix. Otherwise they go, that's exactly what it should be.
What I like is the outside of the box thinking some people have. And that's where you get in some of the comments. So, some people would state the obvious, what fixes their army. But
there are times
seriously good.
There are times when I think I have nailed a way to fix a rule. And I'm convinced that this is the best answer since the history of best answers. And I think this is the way to fix it, and I'm nailed on. And I'll put it on a podcast or something akin to a podcast,
what about me?
Or DZHQ, and someone will drop a comment and say, "Have you thought about this?" I'm like, "Yep, yours is better, much better than mine." It's amazing that the sort of thought process that comes from some people and the way that some people think about how to fix things in this hobby and what have you. It's where I would wish that to some degree GW did a little bit more interaction with the whole community rather than just we've been to LVO and seen that this happens and we've been to Adepticon and seen that this happens and what have you. Do you see what I mean? You know what I mean? Anyway, it's getting late and I'm very tired. I've been at work all day. We have successfully talked for nearly 90 minutes about...
Really? Is that all the time?
40k in general, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And we did a final thought and then carried on waffling.
Yeah.
So
I don't like final thoughts.
I hope you've enjoyed on the pressure,
Yeah,
absolute
I hate
pressure. Next time, if we've got the both of you sat there, we'll do what's Brom's final thought. We'll just get Mikey P to look at you at the side of the face like that.
He'd do it as well, which is so annoying.
He would do it, yeah. Anyway.
He's meant to defend me.
I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed this episode of Chatter from the Vox, there is a back catalogue on YouTube. They are also all on Podbean, Spotify and iTunes, so you can download them. We're doing okay actually in the hobby charts in the UK and stuff out on the podcasts, which is really cool. We basically chucked them out there so that it was another way for people to enjoy the content. They seem to be performing okay. So thank you to every single person who is listening to us on Podbean and is listening to us on Spotify and iTunes, and for all you guys that watch on YouTube. Because we do get a lot more viewers on YouTube than we do on Twitch. If you would like to join in the live conversation, however, feel free to jump into Twitch, search for us at Morehammer Liam. There's links on Facebook and there's links normally in the YouTube videos. You can hit follow and you can come and join us live. Like I said at the start of the video, the homepage for Twitch does give you a schedule. So you can see when we're scheduled for June, and then we'll, towards the end of June, update it for July, and so on and so forth. That schedule also exists on the Facebook banner page thing. So you can also head on over Facebook and click like and follow and all that rubbish on Facebook if you want to see channel updates, and we do things like notify you when battle reports go live and chuck pictures up and all that kind of stuff. So come and check us out on Facebook. We've recently got more Facebook likes than my wife. It took some time. And I'm on about her Warhammer Widows account, not the other one.
Yeah.
So you can check us out on Facebook. Obviously subscribe on YouTube if you've watched, or follow us on Twitch. There's loads of ways you can come and consume Warhammer content. A lot of the stuff we've talked about tonight has talked about Discord and our community of Patreons. If you want to join us on Patreon, there's a button below the Twitch page. There's also a link below the YouTube video. There's also normally links on things like Facebook. But basically head on over to Patreon and search for Warhammer and we'll pop up. And come and join us on Patreon. $2 a month gets you access to our Discord server. That's the bare minimum because we want to keep out you hooligans. And $2 a month gets you access, and it is full of amazing
truly
truly inspirational hobby people. Some of them are amazing.
24/7 content as well, because they're around the world.
No matter when you post, Chapter Master Ridley will probably reply.
Yes.
That's what happens, right? All the time.
He's never sleeps.
The amount of times I'm working on... There he goes. He's there. See, he's always there. He's like a servitor. He's always watching. The amount of times I'm on nights and he'll finish chatting at like 11:30 at night, and then 2:30 in the morning he'll go, "Morning all." Like, what have you done? Just unpowered for 2 hours? What? It's just ridiculous, okay? Absolutely ridiculous. So
and then Jesse kicks in a bit later in the night. And
he's in America. He's allowed, right? So Ridley, I don't understand. He joined us in January, and he's now top of the leaderboards for posts by about 4,000 posts. That's, I mean, he must be single.
Yeah.
We have.
Bless him. He is always there for you.
Yeah, we've got various levels of patrons that you can support the channel depending on how much you want to support us. We are starting to book in platinum patrons for battle reports as well. Cool. And Josh is flying over from America in December to come and play us.
It's very cool.
How cool is that? So we've got people now coming from abroad. That's amazing. To come and play us. We have got battle reports on YouTube. You've probably seen them. And we do put one on deploymentzone.tv every single Tuesday without fail. And we've just gone past our first birthday 2 days ago. The 1st of June was our first birthday, a year old.
Yep.
A year closer to the dream.
Yep. Crowned with a funny looking orc.
The Winter's orc.
Yeah, the Winter's orc for Stylist.
Anyway,
it's awesome.
It is an amazing effort, actually, to be honest with you. That is an incredible effort. So is Andy Burns' Space Marine chapter. The battle report went up on Winter's SEO last weekend. Featured one of our Patreons. He's a patron of both of us, and he's made a Primaris chapter and immortalised each of us in a model, including custom modelling, etc., and custom transfers. It's amazing work. Andy, you're an absolute hero. And we've booked him in for another game at the end of this month as well. So Andy will be coming back to this. Well, I say coming back. He'll be coming to this studio for the first time and filming with us. I think I've covered it all. Don't forget to donate to the Parkinson's UK charity 100-kilometre walk, because that's very important.
Two legends walking a lot.
Stuff for that sort of charity is very close to my heart. I love that sort of stuff. And I actively encourage it. Otherwise, at some point soon, we're thinking about maybe doing a hangout and hobby type stream as well.
Yes. Got stuff to build.
We've got 2 cameras now, as you can see, because it works with 2 cameras, and we've got extension leads for cameras, and it's just, we're getting there. We are getting there.
Hobby, paint, whatever.
Just to really wind you up, Brom and I have got a secret project that we're not going to tell you about. That's about everything. About everything? Have I covered everything?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think so.
For those of you watching on Twitch, we'll hang around for another 10 to 15 minutes once I go and grab another beer. But for those of you on YouTube, we're about to say goodbye. If you want to hang around with us in chat for 10 minutes, you have to come and join us on Twitch in the future. However, a huge shout out to all of the patrons of the channel. You guys are amazing. You sometimes just keep me going, quite frankly. A massive shout out to all the deploymentzone.tv subscribers, because you're helping us live the dream. And a big, big, big shout out to Element Games, and specifically our rep Matt, who's a legend who exists in Discord to answer people's questions. And he's just a real nice dude, actually. He's a nice guy. We're going to go visit him soon. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed watching these. Like I said, don't forget to check out our back catalogue. That's everything, I think. Anything you want to add, Mikey Brom?
Nope.
Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you. Are you going to do the Love You Bye bit?
Should I?
I think you should. Should we see if you can do it better than Mikey P?
I definitely can't do that.
Let's see. Well, are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We're tense now. We're tense. Okay. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Love you, bye.
Shit.
I tried my best and went high pitch and everything.